G'day everyone, welcome to No Guts, No Glory
Podcast.
Welcome. Here we are, Marshall Street, back at home base.
Yep.
After having a couple of weeks out at my place, which is nice for a change. But,
Yep.
I'm Jack the Bear.
I'm Bennett Ferguson, and we have a very special guest today, Stu Watts.
Hello.
Stu Burger. How the fuck do you get Stu Burger? Where did this come from? Can you just explain that?
Matt Zoll.
You're a bit of beefcake, I know that, weren't you?
It was from when I was young, so it's his old bandmate, Matty Zoll. He just has the brain of someone that can go wherever.
Yeah.
And he just pulled that one out. It was like Stewby and Stu B, Stu Burger.
Yeah, nice.
That's
Stu
natural
B,
progression.
Stu
I like
Burger.
it.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Stu Burger in his Studebaker.
In the old Studebaker.
Studebaker. There you
The
go.
old wagon.
You get one of those, mate.
Nice.
That'll suit you anyway.
In my studio.
That is correct.
Good to have you, Stu.
Thanks for having me.
It's always nice to have a little guest in every now and again. Just
Yeah.
Not that little.
you're bigger at counts, mate. You've got a big heart, right?
Thank you.
Big personality.
Appreciate it.
You know, so...
No, thanks for having me. I really
No, it's good to have you,
appreciate
mate. Good to have you. It's always good because we run out of shit to say every now and again. So, no, not really. We never run out of shit to say. So, mate, what do we this week? What are we going to touch on? We got any things in particular we're going to touch on this week, or?
Yeah, I think let's start off with some goals. Setting goals for yourself in your life, in your business, in your career, ways to kind of maintain, stay on top of them, and just see if you're kind of ticking the points along the way, or if you're just playing with yourself, I guess.
Okay, indeed. All right, so I'm going to throw... I've touched on this before, this concept, but because I was thinking about it more during last week or so, because I did call you and I said, look, I reckon we should touch on this because everyone talks about goals and goal setting and stuff. And it's important, but I want to just go for a little bit of a dive in and rethink the whole goal setting thing, because I've always said that and not just me, but my mentors as well, they say that the whole idea of a goal is not necessarily about getting the goal, although it's important to strive for it, but it's about who you're becoming in the process of getting the goal. So you will never earn the goal, whatever it is that you intend, until you have to become someone or a certain someone in order to deserve that thing. So one example, if you want to release a lot of weight, you're going to have to become disciplined. You're going to have to become better educated in nutrition. You're going to have to become more disciplined. You're going to have to do exercise. You're going to have to become a certain person, right?
Yeah.
And even if you had a goal, for example, if I want to get rid of X amount of weight, but let's say 30 kilos, but you only get 15, you still have become someone else. You become someone different, you know? Same thing in business, mate. People are always worrying about this is the goal, and they don't realise that they need to lift their game. They need to become a certain person. They need to learn skills. And while you're on the journey of a goal, you know, you're doing so many things. You're building new relationships. You're learning new skills. You're becoming a different person. You're changing. You know, your identity is starting to change. You're not going to be the same person at day one when you set the intention, right? Now, another thing that is where people go wrong, and I know this may be a little counterintuitive for people and may go against conventional wisdom, but too many people worry about, well, how I'm going to get there, right? And it's a reasonable, logical question to ask. It's like, well, fuck, how am I going to do this and how am I going to do that? Let me tell you, if you can, and it's not easy to do, but if you can, try and let go of the how. How you will get there is almost none of your business, and I'll tell you why. Life works in a very non-linear fashion. We are so left-brained, tuned into, we need logic, we need reason, we need deduction. Everything kind of has to work out on paper, and it's got to make sense. And I get that, but life doesn't work that way. When you look back in different areas of your life in different times, we talk about, these coincidences or these things that come out of left field, the things that are unexpected, the shit that you can't reason, the things you can't think of, the things you can't put on paper, right? And so when you are congruent in your goal, when you've got a vision, and most importantly, when your goal is not set on you, right? It's not egocentric. Like, example, we do a podcast. Now, we do a podcast because we have an intention and a vision about serving other people, about helping young people, about people in studio, people who want to do better in their studio business, in life, who are interested in bettering themselves, right? It's not about you and me and look at us and look how great we are. It's not about that at all. We're here to do a job and we're here to serve others, and it's about us. You know, when on the days when we couldn't be fucked, you know, and as I'm sure you have and I have, I've got to stop and think, well, hang on a minute, this isn't about me. I'm here because I'm here to serve. It may be one person, doesn't matter, but I'm thinking about it's for someone else. It's for a bigger reason. It's for contribution. It's for service. It's about doing something for our industry to help our industry, to give something back. So when we have our goals that are based from what we call an ethnocentric place, we have a far better chance of achieving those goals because it's beyond us. It's not just about us, because it's always easy to say, fuck this, it's too hard, it's too cold, it's too hot, I don't have the money, I don't have, you know, my car's not running well, whatever excuse you want to put in there. And so when we come from that place, we're going to have more success. And when our heart and mind's connected, you know, when we're really feeling that passion, we're really believing in that, then we're going to have a far better chance of getting, if not to the goal, at least a lot closer to it, right? And you're going to be better off for it. So they're the kind of fundamental basic things I just want to share with people when it comes to, you know, don't get caught up in this whole, and timelines. Here's the thing about timeline. It's all good to have a timeline, and I know the saying, a goal without a timeline is just a dream or something, you know, whatever it is. But one of the problems with strict timelines is that when you get too fucking strict on shit, it starts to send you into anxiety and panic. And what happens is if someone sets something like that and they don't make it, they go, oh, fuck, and then they start getting down on themselves, and then they start to say, oh, you know what I mean? And they want to start, you know, giving up slowly to the point where, because that's human nature. So it's not about setting these ridiculous kind of, you know, timelines, and don't use languages like I must do this and I should do this every day, and, you know, all this sort of stuff. That sort of language doesn't help your cause either. So
definitely touched on some very good points there. One thing I like that you just mentioned at the end is the language people used. I noticed earlier on you mentioned when you talk about the weight that you've released the weight. It's not that you lost it. You're not fucking looking for it. You've released this weight.
Yeah, man.
Language and intent behind language is very important. I've heard it described as the like the code, if you will, that the brain listens to. So if you want to rewrite a program, if you want to rewrite your brain on how it works, words, like verbal words, the language you use is the fucking code that writes it.
Absolutely.
And another really good point was that timeline. Like, a lot of people have given themselves a timeline to achieve this goal, but if we go back to, again, what you said initially, the point of going through this goal is you have to go through a learning curve. You yourself have to change to get to the person who reaches this goal. So now if we go through that idea that, all right, the person you are now isn't going to be the same person you are when you achieve the goal. Now if we even try to think about bringing in a timeline around that, what you're doing is bringing in a timeline around something that you don't know the length of the journey of because you haven't gone on it yet because you're not that person. So now if we look at it from a third person's point of view, take some perspective here, what you're doing is putting a timeline that you have no fucking right to know the actual length of, putting that, dictating whether you're successful or not on this fraudulated timeline, which means fucking nothing because you're not the person that you need to be to understand these things. Mm-hmm. And this is when creatives can go around and just beat themselves up in the head so often because they didn't stick to this timeline, which they had no right to come up with in the first place. If their mentor had come out or someone who had done it, that's different. Then you've got some other inputs on it. There is some other people and, you know, advice at play. But I've seen that even around release campaigns, around artists when they come in for artist coaching, where they think they will be in 6 months, in 12 months. It's a big thing putting on unrealistic timelines on yourself.
Absolutely. And I think what's important also is that the belief in yourself as to where you're going, just the knowing, living with this sense of inevitability. It's like buying a ticket. It's like buying a ticket to a destination. And destination says, I'm going to this place. And what happens is that we're set off on a path, and because we're so linear, so straight line thinking, well, the shortest distance is between 2 points is a straight line. In mathematics, maybe that's the case, but it's not like that in life because there are no lines that are straight, that are, well, put it this way, there are no straight lines in nature, right? Everything that a straight line is man-made. You look at rivers, you look at coastlines, you look at creeks, you look at stuff. Flowers. And the reason that's the case, is because, you know, nature wants to take the path of least resistance. So when you see these bends and curves and shit, that's the case, because when there's erosion and water creating these rivers and stuff, it's because it's taking the actual path of least resistance, right? Which is the fastest route of going there, even though we think that it's a straighter line. So we set a goal, okay? We go out there and we're going fucking straight for it, and that's great. And you're very single-minded, and you're very focused, and you're on your way. And then what happens is that something then will happen. And people think that's a fuck-up, when in fact that may be a shortcut to something else that, you know, it's like that, what you miss in the corners you'll pick up in the straights. So so people start to get despondent and start to give up, you know. But if you remember, if you could take an aerial view of your path to where you're going, when you got your ticket in your mind, you're going, this is where I'm heading and this is where I'm going. It's like if you're on a train and you're going south, but it seems like it's going west for a while. If you know that's where you're going to end up, you don't give a fuck that the train's going there. It may seem a bit weird, but you know this is where you're going to end up. Yep. So it's important to have that knowing and that knowing in your heart that this is where I'm going, and that life's going to throw a few curveballs, and sometimes you need to take a step back or a step sideways. But ultimately, all these things are necessary steps in order to get to the promised land, you know? So I think it's important that you live your life with this sense of inevitability that where you're going is where you're going to end up.
I like it. Interesting. It's definitely, I think it's the right, and I fully agree with it. I mean, I guess looking back 4 years ago, I would have really struggled to, I guess, understand that. But it's only through going through some of those winds and where life takes you fucking so far off course. But really, you'll just learn, even if it's learning what you don't want to be doing or who you don't want to be around, so that when you get back to course, you're like, fuck, all right, cool. Now I've learned all these things that happen if you don't look after these little things right. So then when you get to that point, you're in a better position to maintain wherever you're at, because you've seen what happens when shit doesn't go right and what happens when this, like all these things. I think it's definitely never underestimate what you learn from mistakes or from being in what you would deemed as an unsuccessful situation or something that didn't pan out perfectly. Yeah. Because they're the understandings that when you're in your ideal scenario or when you get to fucking where it is you're going, you're going to be able to maintain it and actually have fucking good feedback because you've done all this shit leading up to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
what do you reckon, Stewie?
Stewie, you've
there's quite a lot to unpack. I think the thing that I think of when it comes to goal setting, I tend to look at the small micro stuff more than the macro, because you're right, you can't plan for things that you can't expect to happen. So what's the point in focusing on the negative stuff that goes wrong that might seem, like you said, as it's taking you away from the path? It's just a different fork in the road, and you end up taking one no matter what life deals you anyway. So I'm a lot more focused on the small things, do the small things, because they will lead you somewhere. And I just have that understanding. And, you know, if I started to put timelines on jobs or even like a lot of life things, you know, like buying a house, for example. I don't own a house, I rent, and I'm cool with it at the moment. I know that eventually that's what I want, but I have no timeline in my head for when I'm going to do it because I can't know. Yeah. So, you know, I want to do it, but I can't know it. And then when it comes to jobs, you know, if I start telling a client that comes in that they're recording a full-length album and I say, we have to get it done by this time, I'm putting pressure on myself, which is going to lead to mistakes. I'm going to try and take shortcuts, which never helps anyone. It always backfires. And I'm going to put pressure on them. They're not going to have the best experience, and they're not going to have the best performance. They're not going to feel comfortable here. They're potentially not going to want to come back because they're feeling pressured. So all of those things, to me, it's like, why focus on that? Why focus on that specific timeline? It's like, I can give you a rough guide for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You kind of know where you, through your work rate and how you operate, and when you've done your due diligence, you know, for example, when it comes to the timeline with job deadlines. Now, my world's a bit different because I'm mastering, so it's a much shorter experience. But let's just say for an album, roughly, you know, one of the things I'll always do is lots of due diligence on the project. So always I'll ask people, can I listen to I want to listen to all the mixes, I want to listen to your project, and spend, you know, 15 minutes just running it through the gear and just seeing how it's going to behave and find anything that's not going to allow me to do the job adequately. and be able to provide them the best bang for the buck. And I kind of know after 30 plus years of doing this, I got a reasonable idea as to how long it'll probably take, and then I can work out a budget, and then I can say, right, that's your budget. We'll lock it in, and then they can come in, and we don't worry about the clock. Because I'll tell you now, I don't know in your world how it operates, but in a mastering context, one of the things I found very early in the piece that really helped was to get away from the hourly rate thing. And I'll tell you why. When I was working back at Sing Sing and operating out of their place, they were hiring out the room to me on an hourly basis, and I was trying to introduce this concept of trying to tell them, look, we need to try and do a project rate, because around that time, this is when we really started to see the introduction of more project studios. This is when we started to see the beginning of the lessening of album budgets, and file sharing was all the rage, and it was at the time when things were changing, and we didn't know exactly how it was going to fall into the current model, but it was definitely changing, and so I could see that. Being in the trenches, right at the front line with musicians and seeing what was going on, I could see that, a lot of people were doing their own stuff. They were, the engineering levels were not absolutely fantastic. They varied quite a lot. Most of it was kind of mediocre to kind of humble. And I could see that, okay, we're going to need a little bit more time. And I was presenting this to the management at the time, and they didn't really jive with it because, in their eyes, they were like, look, we've been operating this way for 21 years. We're very fucking successful. Look at it, and I understand why they were the way they were and how they come up with that. I was trying to explain, look, we're entering a different era right now. We need to do things a bit differently, and so they didn't really buy into it. Well, they didn't really buy into it. Their place, their rules, right? So what could I do? But I just worked out that when I could kind of work a system and kind of realise how much time it would take, and roughly kind of map out some kind of rough timeline, and maybe add a little extra, just for a little bit of extra buffer to allow for revision or for because every time they came in, I was paying for the room. I couldn't charge them, so I was doing these consultations, and that was the whole purpose behind it, right? So I could have a listen to what they were doing, get an idea, try and roughly work it out. And then, because there's nothing worse to kill creativity, as I was saying, than this artificial timeline. You want people to come into your place, and when you've done your due diligence, and look, sometimes you're going to have to eat a few hours here and there, and sometimes it may not be as profitable for you, and that's going to happen, right? That's part of it. But from a service point of view, think about it from their perspective. You want your clients to come into your place when you can tell them that, look, this is what it's going to be, barring some exceptional circumstance. But when you can tell them that, they're going to come in, they're relaxed, they're not looking at the clock, they're getting on with the job, they're getting creative, they're making art, and everyone's enjoying themselves and having a good time. And that is the ideal way of doing it. Now, I think in a situation where you're tracking and mixing and there's longer days and it's bigger and wider and more protracted, maybe it's a bit different. But I still think that if you do enough of your due diligence, and you can work out roughly, when you know what you're doing and you're pretty good on the tools, you should be able to, I think, to be able to work out, okay, given what the band are like, given how well rehearsed they are, given how much work is going to be involved here, I think it's going to take X amount of days or X amount of hours, allowing yourself maybe a 10 or 15% for little things. Because here's the other thing with the hourly rate too that happened, one of the big problems. The band would come in an hourly rate, and then all of a sudden someone had to make a call and we couldn't do anything. Couldn't do work. Someone wanted to go take a piss. Somebody, there was all these little interruptions. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, hang on a minute. You spent 10 minutes on the phone. You went off and had a piss. I couldn't work because you're on the phone. And everyone's fucking arguing about, well, how much time was actually being used, right? So you don't want to get into these petty bullshit fucking
100%.
nonsense fucking conversations with people, mate. It's not productive. It doesn't help your cause.
Yeah.
100%.
Good point. I think the hardest thing when you're starting up, I feel like that's a really difficult conversation to have, just because you aren't probably not very confident in your own abilities. You're still learning. I mean, we're always learning for sure.
But initially, yeah.
Initially, that's the really tough part. And, you feel like you want to be able to give this value to people, and you are confident to an extent, you know that you can't necessarily compare, unless you're a prodigy, you can't necessarily compare to, you know, some big professional, but they have to have the understanding that that's what they're in for as well. And if they're not stupid or they're not, you know, really naive about what they're in for, and you've had good conversations, then you really should both have that awareness of what you're entering into. So when you're first starting, that is the hard thing. It's hard figuring out, how do I figure out what I'm worth versus what other people are worth, you know, and what am I giving them? And there's such a big thing around that.
And also it's just having, like, when you're starting out, whether it was in a new facility, or if you're moving out of the home into an actual studio for the first time, or you're just opening up your own studio for the first time, like, until you go through that initial 6, 8, 12 months of actually collecting the data to make those decisions from, like, all right, this is our usual setup time and this is pack up time, because like, it's all, everything's fine in, you know, what you're comfortable in, but as soon as you move, as soon as your studio you're working out of moves and your actual layout changes and your setup changes, like, you just gotta, yeah, in the startup you are not completely guessing, you're making a fucking educated guess, but until you've got that real data behind you, you're like, all right, cool. Like, I mean, you've got 30 years of mastering to look back on, so you can go, cool, all right, judging by this band, how much they practice, the fact that maybe they're not really replying to emails, maybe no one's getting back to me, all right, this is going to set off a couple of fucking warning signs.
Yeah.
You have to go through the experience knowing that you're going to learn those things as well.
Correct, yes.
And that's hard when you're a young person, to know that there's these things that are going to happen. Like, I had a thing when I was, you know, it was about 4 or 5, 6 years ago, where I was planning on working with a band. And because we did have discussions before the project started about what we planned on doing, but I didn't fully understand how young they were. They were like 17 years old, and they entered into this thing, and I wrote up contracts and all this sort of stuff. And then they said, hey, we want to go with someone else, after we'd already started the pre-production phase, and they paid a deposit and they asked for the deposit back. And I was like, like, we had these discussions, and, you know, it was something that I worked through and got to a resolution. It was hard, but you don't know that you're going to have those things, and I'm going to have those things in the future as well. But having that awareness that things can go wrong is a really good thing to remember when you're preparing for entering into this sort of work.
Yeah.
Because you can't prepare for other people.
No, that's true.
People are so unpredictable.
They can be. I think, but I think this is where, again, wherever possible, I like to engage with a client and have a conversation beforehand. Now, as I said, mastering's different. It's 1 track, 2 tracks, a day for an album. It's not a days, or in some cases weeks, where for you guys, you're tracking full album, you're mixing, and you're going into quite deep into the work. But it's important to have these conversations face to face, video call, if they're interstate and they're coming in to see you. And to try and just have some contingencies always. You know, it's hard initially at the beginning because, as you said, Stu, rightly so, you don't know your worth in the market. You don't have a track record. You've got nothing to really compare to. But it's really important, though, from the get-go that you do still hold value of yourself and you carry yourself like a professional, because being a professional isn't just about making money in your job. Being a professional is how you carry yourself. Being a professional is about your attitude. Being a professional is about turning up on time, doing what you'll say you'll do, right? Having real genuine interest and investment in the band. And you know what? People are prepared to pay you a little more when they know that you're invested. And we've touched on this before, and it's worth, you know, highlighting again. I cannot stress the importance of, you know, remember, guys, this is a service industry. We're serving our clients and we're looking after them, and that's going to be the big differentiating fact. Price is important and it matters, but most people, I'll tell you now, they're prepared to spend a little bit more when they feel you are genuinely into what they're doing and you care about them, and that will be reflected in the fact that you ask more questions, you follow up with them, you're there. You might go check them out at a rehearsal, you'll go to their gig, you show them that, you know, it's like you're interested and you're invested, and they feel that when they know that, hey, this guy's got our back, he's going to look after us, he's going to be making sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. Trust me, even if you're a beginner, that is going to put you one step ahead of most people out there. So don't worry about the fact there's a million people out there trying to do this. Most people, it amazes me. It just amazes me how many times I get calls from people who say, holy shit, I didn't expect the call so quick, or fuck, I didn't, like, it's amazing. You actually rang us. Or, do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Something really simple, man. And people are still waiting for other people to get back to them. And and they don't realise that it's these little things, mate, that put you in the box seat.
We were having this conversation the other day. Remember I was telling you about my old workplace and how other people that I was in the same area as would always put the conversation last and in regards to the client. So say something went wrong during the job, they would be scared to have that conversation. They'd potentially leave it for someone else to have that conversation.
Have the uncomfortable conversation early.
But the prediction was that something was going to go wrong. Yeah. And that was the first thing in their head. They're like, I'm not going to make this call. Something's gone wrong in what I'm doing, and the person that on the other end is going to be angry. Whereas, like, if you look at it, is the first thing you do is call that person, say what's happened. Mm-hmm. Hey, I've come into a little bit of trouble. Something's gone wrong. I'm owning up to it. I apologise. I'm going to do what I can to make it up to you.
Yep.
That is going to speak way more than waiting and getting someone else to have that conversation.
Being transparent, because like if you are genuinely transparent about everything you do and you've got the right intentions behind your actions, things will pan out just fine. Mm-hmm. The only time people are scared to be transparent is when they've got different intentions or when they've got a different fucking agenda that they don't want you to know, and then they try to mask shit. If you're 100% transparent, and then as soon as you find out something's like, fuck Stu, just found this out, I'm calling you. Everyone's like, oh, it's not a sense of, hold on, did he find this out yesterday and he didn't tell me? Yeah. Or what's he planning on here?
Yeah.
Like, if you're straight up transparent, like, fuck, someone comes in, is like, oh, dude, hold it, the SD cards are fucking gone and we lost everything. It's like, fuck, that's going to be a shitty conversation to have with someone.
Fuck yeah.
But if you fucking have that, man the fuck up and have that, as soon as you find out, you call the band, you walk them through what happened. Because the thing is, people understand that shit happens in life. Humans are humans. If you are transparent about how you go about things and you tell people why you did the actions and why you thought that would get the outcome we wanted. So say Tone's here, hey man, this is my procedures. Usually I dump all the SD cards and I put it into the computer, then I upload to Podbean. Then I go, but this time fucking the computer fits it up, blah, blah, blah. If I've told you all that along the steps, why I did the steps I did, what went wrong and why I didn't think that would happen, all of a sudden, it goes two ways. Either you disagree with the steps that I took, in which case you think there would have been a different outcome, and in which case that should have been alleviated when we first had the first conversation, or you completely understand the steps I took and you agree that the outcome was a surprise and something that we couldn't have predicted, and accidents in life, shit happens. And in which case there's no point thinking back on it. Let's fucking move on and see how we can rectify and fix the problem moving forward.
Yeah, and even if they do get upset and they leave, well, sometimes you got to eat a big fat dick. It's just
but time as well. Time's a big thing with the immediate reaction might be shitty. But I think with a little bit of time, those people will reflect on what's happened, and eventually they'll come to understand. Unless they're a complete sociopath. But
mate, the times I've fucked up on jobs where where there's been CDs have gone to press and there's been click on a master, or one case accidentally something and let it be mono and I didn't check it and a CD got pressed up. But one case, the one and only time actually lawyer got involved that I ever got involved with a legal situation, but it all got resolved in the end. It was very unfortunate because the engineer that was the mixing on the album, we were friends, and it just left a bitter taste in his mouth. But you know what? That job, even though eventually, and I'm not at liberty to talk about how it ended up, but it all got squared up, and it ended up costing me what it cost me, my time and what have you. But what I learned from that job, though, actually potentially saved me from a situation where I could have actually had a job go wrong where 10,000 fucking CDs have been pressed up. So from a couple of thousand CDs, I think it was, all right, that's bad. But if I hadn't learnt that lesson and that went through, that maybe would have happened on a 10,000 pressing job.
Correct.
You with me? And which would have been a bigger fuck up and even more, so sometimes these things are meant to happen and you just cop them on the chin and you put them down to life lessons, and because no one goes through this thing unscathed. I don't care how experienced you are. I'll be the first to put his hand up. I've fucked up jobs. I've made mistakes. I've had situations.
But the big thing is you learn from these things. It didn't happen on that 10,000 run, and that's the other thing that people I think should be accountable for when they go, okay, cool, it's okay to not be on this linear path and things can go wrong. You need to learn from it. I think that's the big takeaway in this is it has to develop your skill or your craft or your knowledge or your understanding of business, whatever it is, should always be evolving. And I think when you're not learning from these lessons, then that's all right, what are we fucking doing here?
Yeah. Can I just talk about something else just real quick?
No.
And okay.
No, go on.
Just I wanted to mention something for the young cats who are starting out on something that, again, this may sound counterintuitive, but just bear with me. And that is that sometimes some of your successes can also be situations where you don't actually get a gig. And I'll explain what I mean. That is where someone rings you up and says, hey, I need something done and you can't do it. All right, you can't do it, you don't have the experience or you don't have the resources or whatnot. But if you can help someone, right? So you don't get the gig. You can't get the gig for whatever reason. It's out of your it's out of your pay grade, your skill set, your resource set, whatever. But then you can go off and you can actually help these people find someone. And this is where the networking thing's really good. This is where it's good to reach out, know people, get to become friendly with studios, and don't think in terms of competition, everyone. I know it seems competitive and everyone's trying out there to compete for dollars, but I don't believe in that at all.
Yeah.
I think that the more cooperative spirit we have, the more sense of community, the more you can help each other out. And the amount of times I've farmed work out and the amount of times I've had work farmed into me for various reasons. I'm too busy, I can't do it, but this guy can.
Yep.
Or, hey, I can't do it for this price point, but this guy can. These kind of situations. So I'm not making any money off the job, okay? But sometimes that's okay. And because it's more important to build a reputation as being a good guy. You're not going to be everyone's friend. You're not going to be everyone's fucking darling. But if you can, here's the thing, right? There's always going to be people that hate on you. Haters are confused admirers. We know that, okay? But here's the thing. When it comes to people not like you, some people may just not fucking like you, period, okay? For whatever reason. They got to be in their bonnet, they don't like you, and they just don't like you. Fine. Here's the thing. I don't really, of course I care what people think, and I like to think that people think well of me. But here's what I am more concerned of, right? Not so much about what you think about me. I don't want people to have justified reason to say shit about me, right? It's one thing to say, he's an asshole, he's a prick, he charges too much, he's whatever. But when you've got something in fucking writing, cold, hard fucking proof of like, hey, this guy fucking wronged someone, then you got a problem. Then you got a real fucking problem, and then that's on you, right? Opinions mean shit. But when you give people actual justified reason to want to shit on you, then that hurts. And that can sometimes ruin careers. Very hard to come back from that. So be conscious and be mindful of you're playing a long-term game. And it's not about don't think of everyone as with fucking dollar signs over their heads, okay?
100%.
Treat them well, serve them, take care of them. And in the future, trust me, and I've had situations where I've had, bands call me 3, 4, 5 years later. Hey, dude, I don't know if you remember us, but we came and saw you and you couldn't help us, but you put us onto that guy. Well, now we've got some money. Now we can afford it. We want to come work with you.
Yeah.
Comes back around.
Fuck yeah.
The other thing there is it's not only the times where you can't do it, it's having the awareness to know that you're not the right person for it as well. I think that's a big thing as well is knowing, when you're starting off, you want to get as much work as possible. You want to go dive in deep. You want to just go hard and do as much and get as much experience. But there are times when you have to be able to say, I know I'm not going to do the right job for this person. I know that I'm not serving them by taking this job. And even though that they want me, I know in here that I'm not going to serve them right, and it's not going to be a good outcome for both of us.
And it's definitely a huge thing. It's a good, you've got good awareness on that. Last week I came to you with an idea of that new product that I wanted to push out, and you were straight off, you're just I'm not the producer for it.
Yeah.
Which is sweet. Just be able to go, cool, I fully see that. Sounds awesome. I'm not the guy. And 100%
people appreciate it, and because it's got to come from the place of, I'm not saying this to you because I don't want to work with you, or I'm telling you this because I care.
Yes.
I don't want to see you throw good money after bad.
That's it.
Right?
I couldn't say yes.
I care. I honestly care about you.
Correct.
I care about your money you're spending. I care about the outcome. Right?
Yep.
I'd love to do it. I'd love to be able to take care of it. The amount of jobs I got to not so much reject, but I just tell them, look, I could take this and I could make it subjectively sound better. But when you go home and play it on your system that you're not going to feel really good about the fact that you spent this much money. And I know you. I know it in front. I fucking know it in front. So why would I want to make you go home and do that? Because then you got the right to say, hang on a minute. This guy's supposed to be fucking experienced. He should have fucking known better, and rightly so.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've given them that reason.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And on that, there is, for anyone starting out, I just want to touch back on the point you made where there, like, competition, I don't believe in, I'm not in competition against anyone except ourselves. Like, I will put myself out of business before other people will. And in that, I look at it the same aspect as having a online presence. There is never too many people out there doing it. The market decides this. Mm-hmm. If you're giving out fucking value and you're helping people and you're alleviating their pain points and you're actually fucking helping them do something they want to do, there is room for you in the market. Yeah. If you're just taking jobs or whatever, if you're constantly looking at your competitors and finding out how you can it's just a matter of time before that shit catch up with you and you'll be dead. And even on that, music industry, especially in Australia, it's a fairly tight fucking industry. Very much so. Everyone knows everyone. And there is, I can tell you, from campaigns we did with people 3 years ago, we've had artists come through here in the last 12 months. In the last 6 months, you've heard it. There's particular names that get up. And guess what? They're never going to get a fucking another job again because people talk.
They do.
And I think what's good about that, or what's important about that, is not to necessarily be bitter about those experiences or those people or anything like that, because, you do things your way and have trust and faith in yourself in the way that you do things. Don't focus too much on what other people are doing wrong, because, like you said, that will come out in the wash.
Yep.
And it's not going to be on you. Correct. If you're the one telling everyone how much of a shit bloke this person is, then
people look at that as well.
Painting
and
yourself a bad.
Do mention that as well.
Yeah, mate.
Definitely.
Go on.
Yeah, if you're known to badmouth people behind people's backs, like if you're known to one of those people at industry events, whoever's not in the room, you'll be telling people your thoughts on them. Like that spreads just as quick as fucking negative feedback.
Yeah. When I hear people talk shit about others and gossip, chances are they're probably talking that way about me as well.
I think that as well.
At times.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Do you know what I mean?
Fucking oath.
Justified or not, but they do.
100%.
So it's that old adage of, like, if you've got nothing to say, shut the fuck up.
Yep.
There's no reason for you to add. People love a salacious story because here's the thing, man. Bad news travels 10 times faster than good news, right?
Yep.
And not only does it travel 10 times faster, but it's fucking 10 times fucking maxed out. It's Chinese whispers and shit. Because everyone loves a fucking story, right? Everyone loves controversy. Everyone loves some, controversy and salaciousness, and they love it. So people like to fucking G it up, right? And
what's
bullshit.
Your opinion on how do you say you've got someone that's going through something, right? Something bad. They've had a bad experience with a person or something like that. Understanding that you need to vent is a good thing. How do you suggest that people go about venting about bad experiences?
Well, you don't go around on Facebook and naming and shaming people.
Yeah.
If you've had a bad experience with someone, learn from it, swallow it, take the lesson, and don't perpetuate more of that fucking bad juju. Just get on with it, mate. Just fucking get on with it. Dust yourself off. You can feel bad for a while. You can experience and feel the loss, but lashing out and talking shit about people, and you're just perpetuating more bad energy. And it all comes back, man. We're energetic beings, and I very consciously, and look, I don't pretend to be some fucking happy, positive, Mr. Positive. Everything's fucking positive. I'm in my fucking darkness.
You actually don't come across as that,
right? My preference is to fucking put out positive information and a positive message. But I'm happy to talk about my own. If it comes to the dark shit, I'll happily share my mistakes and where I went wrong, but I won't be talking about anyone else's.
No.
That's their fucking issue, and that's for them to either share or not. That's their business. I'm not in control of that.
And even that, I think that's what's made you such a powerful persona around that, because just hearing how you have dealt with things in your life, with your issues, whether it was family, weight-related, all this, I know just being able to watch you talk about that helps people go through it. Whether that's for myself, for Clacker, like buddies of mine that I've shown your stuff to, watching you be able to talk through those periods in your life and how you use them to get to where you are now, and this whole idea of what you went through, just that journey, although it wasn't you talking about what anyone else's journey should be like, or it's purely on you, but that's when we can kind of be like, fuck, all right. It gives you those little bits of insights where like, cool, I can apply that into my life, and you can take this learning and go bring it on. And that's when, in my experience, that they've been the most powerful ones, because it's not someone telling you this, that's like, all right, this is what I did. This is what the fuck I went through, and this is the fucking finish line that I got to in the end of it. And that's it. You can take of it what you fucking will, whatever you need to, get yourself going. But I think that's one of the effective ways that you've gone about or been talking about your things, is that you don't come into this as this is what everyone should do. So it's reflecting on what you've gone through.
Yeah, listen, I've just always said to people, or for a long time now, everything I put out there is just a sharing of my experience. That's it. Now, I just put it out there for consideration. I've never said this is the right way. This is just what has worked for me. And I'm sharing it because it has worked for me. So if you haven't considered this before, here's a different angle. Here's a different perspective. Here's something for yours. Again, it's all for your consideration. My life goes on the same. Whether people do it or not, my life goes on and I'm merrily on my way. And as far as sharing, all the fucking bad stuff, I think it's important, because I'll tell you why, because that's where you're credible with people. Right? It's all good to say, well, I've done this and I've won this award and I've worked with this band, and that's all great and people love that. But the reality is, mate, that I am a black belt at fucking up. And I still fuck up. I don't fuck up as badly, but I still fuck up, okay? And that's okay, because that's all part of the learning curve. And so, when people go around thinking that, they look at me and they have a certain perception of, here's the thing, man, it's like an iceberg. We see the 15% above the waterline, and it's either the 15% that people want to see or the 15% that people want to show you, okay? And that's where the social media comes in. Look at me, fucking how fucking amazing I am, and I'm fucking killing it. Whereas underneath that 85%, man, under the waterline, which is the reality of setbacks, mistakes, betrayal, fuck-ups, all that kind of shit, man. But that is what supports that cap at the top that floats above the waterline.
Yep.
Right?
Sure.
And it's underneath, so people can't see it or people want to hide it, right? I'm happy to grab your fucking head and go, look, I'm going to dunk your head under the water and have a fucking look at what's going on. Have a gaze at this, because this is the reality. This is what is the foundation to what allow me to have that 15% that you look and go, oh fucking, that's lovely, but that's not the whole story. Right? And so and we're all going to make mistakes and we're all going to fuck up, and it's okay. I'm grateful for my mistakes. I'm grateful for the lessons I learned, because without those lessons, I wouldn't have been able to move to the next step and the next level and fucking have wisdom. And now I've been in a position of being a guy who loves mentoring, because why? I share most of my shit. It's about sharing my shit with people and being really honest about it.
I definitely think the hardest things that we go through are the ones that we reflect upon the most and try and figure out what happened, full stop, like what actually happened and what did I actually learn from it. And it's important to not look at bad times as purely bad times. You have to be able to go, what actually happened there? How did it lead to it? What happened as a result of it? Did I actually learn from it? What have I done since? Has that happened again? Like I always, the main things that stick in my head are generally the things that I've learned are things that I've learnt from the badder times, 100%. The worst times that have things that have happened in my life, but I'm grateful for them.
Definitely. As we've said, like it takes disaster to learn a lesson. And I mean, it's through my biggest lessons in life have come from fucking complete disasters. But, obviously you wouldn't change it. Like that's who I am now is from all of that. And it's kind of the thought process of, so I have something I say to myself in this, and that's just embrace the adversity. If something's kind of hard or something, that's like what goes through my head. And it's from an idea that I'm not the business owner or the business person that I will be in 5 years. I'm not that person yet. That's fairly standard to say. I think everyone would agree with that. Themselves, they're not the person they will be in 5 years. To get to that person we're going to be, there has to be some level of growth, of personal growth. If we all go, yep, agreed, then let's then go further down the line. Personal growth comes from pain, comes from discomfort. That's why you go to the gym to tear your muscles because they get big. If you're going to grow, you have to be in some shape of pain or discomfort.
Absolutely.
Now, if everyone accepts that, go, yep, one step after the other, cool. Let's now embrace the adversity. If you can embrace this pain because you're accepting, it's not permanent. Like, I'm yet to see someone who's found a permanent struggle and for the rest of their eternal life they are fucking. It doesn't happen. But you learn from these things and it grows. So if you go, okay, cool, I'm now intellectual enough to put together that I want to grow to be a better person in 5 years. Growth comes from pain. Let's fucking run headfirst into these challenges because the quicker we can get all this fuck ups done, the quicker I can make 50 fucking mistakes is going to be the quicker that I fucking learn.
Yeah, embrace it.
Yep.
Life is a growth-centric experience, people. It is. You came with nothing, you're going to check out with nothing. You got memories and experiences, and that's it. It's all good to fucking accumulate shit. It's all part of the game, and it's fun, and it's great, but it's all about growth. It's all about growth. And
Couldn't agree
no
more.
growth will ever happen until you go through, like, as you said, Ben, correctly, level of discomfort, level of pain. And the more it's like you get conditioned to it. We're adaptation machines. So as soon as you can learn to get more comfortable with a difficult conversation, doing the hard yards, doing the stuff that most people just could not be fucked because it's pain. It's too hard. It's too this. It's too that. And you realise that when you go through, when you have this moment of anxiety about something, oh, fuck, I'm not worried about this. Once you actually do it, then you realise, hang on a minute, it wasn't as hard as I thought.
Yeah.
Right?
At the end of the day, you said I got through that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that was a hard day, but I'm still alive and I got through that thing.
And you feel better for it. And then you know that, okay, well, I know that I can fucking jump that fucking hill.
Yep.
Well, now when I come to the bigger hill that previously would have been even more scary,
Yes.
you know what? Fuck, I've done that.
Yeah.
I can fucking tackle this. I can give it a fucking nudge. You know? And that's how it goes.
100%. And then it's step by step, day by day. You take it, I mean, I know for me, I'd take it one day at a time. And you just string together day after day, which builds to week after week, which month. And before you know it, you've been pursuing this thing that you call a fucking career in music or career in art or whatever it is. Before you know it, you're putting one foot after the other every day in, day out. You're fucking getting there into the trenches. You're learning it. And you'll pop your head out fucking 5 years later, much as like I did. And you're like, fuck, hold on.
How much shit did I go through,
Yeah,
man?
I'm surrounded by all these people and now you've got this and you're like, fuck. At the time you can't see it, but you've you got to have faith in the process and you do get there. You do get to where you want to end up.
I hope you don't mind bringing it back to other people, but I think an important thing to remember as well is you don't know what other people are going through at the same time. So I always like to remember that. I know as much as this is hard, what I'm going through because of someone else, they're going through shit as well that I actually probably don't know that they're going through.
Yeah.
And that could be why they're reacting this way. That could be why they're yelling at me. They're not actually angry at me necessarily. It's because of something that's happened. They had a car accident or, something, someone got hurt or
the
whatever.
girlfriend left them.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many things that you don't know that are happening to someone else. So I guess what I try to do, whether I can or not, is to try and understand what that person's going through. If they're angry, it's like, I can see something's wrong here. Do you want to talk about it? What are you going through? Can I help before? Let's put what we're doing on hold.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're not in the right headspace. Do you want to talk to me about it? Do you want to walk away? What do you want to do? Like it's not going to go anywhere.
It's never about you. We and this is the difference between being self-conscious and self-aware. When we're self-conscious, we think it's about us. We worry about how it affects us. It's about us. Whereas in self-aware mode, we start to ask questions about, well, what's going on here? What's the actual real story? Because it's never about us. We like to think that we're at fault, we're the blame, we've contributed somehow, and people, when they're getting pissed at you, man, they're just projecting at you. It's and it's hard sometimes to cop it from people. It is. It's not easy.
Can be brutal.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, this is where self-awareness is where it's really important. If you have enough self-awareness to kind of separate the emotional content and just sort of go, oh, whoa, hang on a minute, time out. Let me take a higher view of the situation and try to observe this, from a different perspective. Then you get a bit more clarity, and then you can kind of make better decisions about stuff because you're not making it from an emotional place.
Yeah.
The worst decisions I've ever made in my fucking life was when I was in a highly emotive state, whether I was fucked off and really angry or whether I was really emotionally elevated and high as fuck, right? Worst decisions I've ever made. So, you know, you've got to be calm and rational, but you can only do that when you are aware of your thoughts and you can just sort of go, hang on a minute, let's just fucking survey the terrain here and see what's going on. Yeah.
I'll get back to you tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me take a night to think about it.
Take a breath and get back tomorrow. Exactly. Don't call us, we'll call you.
Nice. All right, well, that's a pretty good podcast.
That was pretty good.
Anything else you want to touch on,
No,
James?
mate. Nah, nothing at all. It's just good fun. It was good to fucking get back in here, mate.
I think that's good. Some good takeaways there, even for artists or people starting off, is just to not put a lot of stress and pressure on yourself around
Goals.
Goals and timelines.
Yeah, it's all about who you are becoming. Who are you becoming?
Be just on the journey. The journey is the finish line.
Making it is the fucking doing it today.
Yep, 100%.
If you're out there right now and you are in a studio and you're 2 weeks in, 2 weeks in, right? And you're just kind of starting to get your shit together, you have made it.
Yep,
you
there.
fucking made it.
You're making it.
And you are making it. You are making
it.
it. You are. Thank you for correcting me. You are making it, you know, because you out there who has just started, right, with maybe one client or about to look at getting the first client, have done way more. You've done more than 80% of the motherfuckers out there who sit and think about it and fucking tell their mates they're going to do it and do fuck all. And you've done it. So fucking kudos to you kids out there.
Yep, 100%.
Nice.
All right, on that, everyone knows where you can send any questions, queries, or topics that you want us to cover.
No Guts, No Glory Gmail at Gmail?
Yep, No Guts, No Glory
podcast
at gmail.com. No Guts, No Glory podcast on Facebook, Instagram. Send us anything, thoughts, feedback. Let us know what you think of Stu, his haircut, his beard for today's show.
And no, he's looking very schmoo as
He's
always.
looking very
Stu, it's good to have you on.
Yeah.
We
Thanks
have to
for
get you
having
back,
me.
man, because I actually enjoy the dynamic. It's really good.
Thanks.
It's really good fun.
Yeah, I think I've done other podcasts, comedy related, as well as the Marshall Street podcast. And I think the thing that a lot of people don't understand is that, like, as a podcast, you want it to be a back and forth. It's not about us. Like, so I think on that, if you do have any questions, and I'm the outsider here, but I can appreciate when people have something to say. Don't let it go unsaid. Write in. Like, just comment on the Facebook video, comment on the YouTube video. Like, it really makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we encourage people's input and community, and even if you don't like us, tell us. It's all good.
We're fine with it. All right, until
Thanks
next
for having
time.
me.
So,
Thank
see you
you.
later, fuckers. We love you.
Cheers.
See ya.